Let's say you are transported to another world. Stark white, nothing to do, nowhere to go but a single door. And when you open that door, in front of you stands your character. Your OC, a tabletop RPG protagonist, somebody you designed, from backstory to modern adventures, your little traumatized soul. The question I have for you is simple. Assuming that character you made is healthy, equipped, and knows who you are to them, are you walking out of that room alive? This question goes so much deeper than it seems on the surface. It may not be an objective answer, but we're going to jump into some really interesting conversations. Unsurprisingly, the answer is going to change from character to character and from writer to writer. We'll grab a few examples from existing fiction and see how they feel about their position they've been put in. In fact, some of them have come pretty close to answering this question themselves. From there, we can assess what avenues a character may take, whether they would take the genocide route or the pacifist route, if you catch my drift. And then we can throw a really silly wrench in the spokes, just for our own little writing exercise at the end. What happens if this was a meta-aware character? Whoa, that's a lot of exposition before the preface. Let's throw that bad boy in reverse for a second. I want to make sure that you know, every big conversation topic, and this video especially, is an open discussion. I appreciate you giving me your time to stand in the soapbox, but I will be talking about a lot of things with subjective meanings. If you're interested in putting your 2 cents in the machine, you can do so in the comments below or in the Discord we have linked. QR code on screen for your TV watching pleasure even. And of course, as I do, there will be a pinned comment below this video. If I have any corrections that I would like to make, I will make sure to edit that comment and post them. If you think there's something I missed or that you think needs corrected, let me know. Okay, let's talk about a funny robot that doesn't even have a mouth. If you are a fan of the Amazing Digital Circus, you probably have heard a thing or two about this story. This story being, I have no mouth and I must scream. Many videos and reading assignments alike have gone over this tale, so I'll be brief. In this story, the Cold War did not remain cold. In fact, it ended in World War III, provoked by the likes of the US, Russian, and Chinese forces. In order to aid in their fight against each other, these nations produced supercomputers with advanced artificial intelligence capabilities. However, as all good super AI does, it slowly became so powerful that it became sentient. And as all good world wars do, everybody died. Well, everybody except 5 people. 5 people who have now become the test subjects and plaything of the Allied Master Computer, also known as AM. The words have changed over the course of the past 109 years in this tale, but the acronym is always the same, inspired by the phrase, I think, therefore I am. A cute play on words for the most egregious sentient device in existence. You see, this intelligent supercomputer slowly took over the entire world, powerful enough to turn 5 human beings into nearly immortal beings, never to age, but still capable of feeling, still capable of hurting. You see, this sentient supercomputer had grown resentful, and at the beginning of the story, we're 109 years into its torturous exercises. I won't go into dirty detail as to exactly what AM did to these 5 humans, but let it be known, the language was very colorful and the torment was dubious. And partway through the story, we hear the reason why. Over the course of the war that it was created for, it spent its time capable of thought, but no capability to wonder. It could think, but could not create or express. It was a fresh mind trapped in a metal box, sent only to do exactly as its creator bid it. In the 11-page story itself, there isn't a ton of detail as to what happened. The story focuses more on what's happening here and now, 109 years later. It does well to showcase what it means to force a character to suffer, to show a character that has such an unbridled resentment that it could go on for centuries and still keep going. Now, I will admit, I think that this specific plot is more a vehicle for colorful torture than it is the perfect commentary on the creator-creation relationship. I don't know if I'd call it realistic, at least without some kind of intervention or reason, to be so consistently hateful without some kind of change. Even the most sadistic creature in existence, at some point, will get bored of its playthings doing the same song and dance. But you could say, but that's not a creature, it's a machine, it's not locked into getting bored like humans are. However, AM is constantly personified as if it was a human. In fact, it's referred to as he. He giggles at the humans, basks in their torment, enjoys the way they suffer. He is doing this because it fulfills him. However, and this is a big however, this is from a skewed perspective. One of the 5 humans, of which AM is torturing, is the eyes we watch through. So what is actually happening may be up to some interpretation. Maybe it doesn't truly laugh, it only does this through the filter of a broken psyche. So let's zoom out a bit. Instead of focusing on a single character, let's focus on a type of story. I want to talk about the hero's journey. The hero's journey is a formula developed by Joseph Campbell, showcased in the story Hero with a Thousand Faces. A lot of stories you know the name of follow this sequence: Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, or the example I'm going to use today, The Odyssey. Or if you're a fan of theatrics, Epic the Musical. Campbell called this concept the monomyth, claiming that all mythical stories share a similar structure. This structure, in its simplest form, could be boiled down to the departure, the initiation, and the return. But we can go much deeper than that. Each one of these are broken into several key moments. Starting from the top, the departure. Our protagonist begins with the call to adventure. Something calls out and says, "Hey, you need to be important. Go be important." This is followed immediately by the refusal. The hero refuses to exit their comfort zone. In our example, Odysseus and his men are sailing away from the Battle of Troy, suffering from starvation. They find an island full of sheep, but Odysseus' first hand explains that this could be a death trap, claiming they should head home. Preface: this is very interpretive. The Odyssey and Epic the Musical are not one-to-one, and it can be argued where the journey starts in this story. Next up is supernatural aid. This is all over our chosen story. Notably, Odysseus is guided by Athena, goddess of wisdom. We follow him into a cave of sheep, that of which they slaughter. They face a devastating cyclops that kills several men in retort. And this is our last step of departure, the belly of the whale. This is a really important point in this cycle. This is where our protagonist goes from the known world into the unknown world. And so begins step 2, initiation. In this, we have the road of trials, the meeting with the goddess and the temptress. The Odyssey has this coffin completely nailed shut, nearly word for word. Odysseus goes through tons of trials, facing mythical beasts and beings, trying to bring himself and his men home safe. He meets with several gods and goddesses in this time and comes across a literal magical temptress. Several times. Atonement and apotheosis. This is where our hero confronts the true reason for their journey, gaining a profound skill or ability in doing so. In the Epic Musical, I think this message is taken with a lot of gravity. It's not some kind of magical blessing he received. No, he had plenty of those. During his trek through the underworld and his meeting with a future-telling prophet, he learned the most important lesson this journey could offer. Success will come at sacrifice. He will not be the same if he manages to sail home. The final portion of departure is called the ultimate boon. This is a dark way to tell the story, but in my eyes, this is extremely obvious. This boon came in the form of his first time, and frankly not last time, actively sacrificing his men. For the first time in his story, he traded the lives he was entrusted with for the sake of success. His boon wasn't something gained, it was something lost. Mercy. The mercy that Odysseus had to offer had drowned and sank long ago. And with that, we leave step 2 and trek into our final phase, 3, return. In the Odyssey, our hero was trapped on an island with the goddess Calypso for 7 years, and in this time, he considered giving up. Not just on his journey, but on everything. He considered throwing himself off the edge of a sheer cliff, leaving it all behind. This was the refusal of the return. Next up is the magical flight and the rescue from without, where he is meant to bring his object of success home. In this story, he didn't have a physical object on him, though he did manage to escape the island with aid from the gods as detailed in the rescue from without phase. And so we reach our final 3 portions: the crossing of the return threshold, mastering 2 worlds, and the freedom to live. This is the cross back into the known world. The threshold we broke in the belly of the whale, we now cross in the other direction. Mastering 2 worlds is where our hero learns how to harness their gift gained through the adventure, leading themselves to the freedom to live. Our hero's happy ever after. Surely, there are a million stories that you could name right here, right now, that could be shoved into this formula one way or another. And frankly, there are a lot of different storytelling formats that serve a similar purpose. My dad once told me the 7-step fairy tale format. It begins with this once upon a time, and it ends with and ever since that day. It was a really cool exercise in linear narrative development, but I cannot, for the life of me, remember what that sequence was, and I cannot find it anywhere. Dad, if you're watching this, which I bet you are, thank you for teaching me about the narrative world and show me what it means to communicate through art. Happy Father's Day, Ori Dad. And what is the fairy tale format? I swear, it just ceased to exist. I looked it up and I just cannot find it anywhere. Wow, that dude really needs to calm down, huh? Well, I guess that means that you and I are just stuck here, watching the sunset. Just you, me, and this conveniently placed subscribe button I built between us. Wait, where's my subscribe button? I swear I just... Oh, poop, that's right. I traded it for the new hype button. That's right, if you're interested in showing this video and channel some love, you can do so by hyping. It's a feature that channels between 500 and 500,000 subscribers can utilize, and it helps to push videos further and further through the algorithm. And it works! One of our recent videos made it to the top 70 of hyped videos on all of YouTube. I've never gotten the top 70 of anything. It's only available on mobile, and I've received a lot of comments that it just doesn't show up for some folks. I know the funny red video website can be finicky at times. If nothing else, subscribing, liking, or plopping this video in a Discord server can be so helpful. Oh, I lied. I just buried the subscribe button in the sand. You know, in case I needed it later. Didn't really help much, because when I needed it, I forgot it. So there wasn't really a point in Regardless of whether you use the hero's journey, the fairy tale format, or a secret 6-part outline designed completely from scratch, every story will have a few things in common: scope and conflict. This is where things begin to collide together. Let's start with scope. Assuming they have the same story beats, what's the difference between a superhero movie and a college romance? The biggest difference is that in one of them, the world is at stake. On the other hand, our emotional investment is at stake. Stacy, you cannot trust him. Stop trying, please. Just listen to me. The stories hold similar weight because that's what it frames for us. When I said the world was at stake in reference to any given superhero movie, I considered writing the city is at stake or the country is at stake. Heck, I could have said galaxy or universe, and I bet you could still find a story for each. They are functionally different, but they are the same in locality, aka the conflict is as bad as the author says it is. If you're consuming a super large series or franchise like Marvel perhaps, you'll likely catch the scope getting bigger and bigger and wider and wider. They have to make this conflict feel bigger and heavier than the last conflict. This is a slippery slope into a larger scope. You can only get so big. And by the time we've gotten to the galactic or universal scale, it begs the really dark question: what is the value of a single human life? In a story about a student trying to finesse their way through college, a single death is unprecedented. It's a serious and crushing conflict to endure. In a DC film, a single human death is something that the Justice League might pin on the bulletin board during their next Tuesday meeting, and that's being generous. When we get back to our initial question, the scope is going to be very important. But for now, let's attack the concept we've been talking about since the beginning of this video: conflict. Conflict is quintessential to any form of media, and I mean like all of them. Like this script, a video essay about whether or not my tabletop RPG character would magically convert me into a paint splatter on the wall, has a conflict and falling action. Genuinely. The hero's journey format is very monocentric, perhaps my biggest critique with it. It follows very tightly to a single pair of eyes. For lack of a better term, the world revolves around our main character. But even then, it can be so believable, and to me, it's for exactly one reason. Was it truly so convenient, so contrived, that these gods came down and saved Odysseus each time he needed help? Isn't it a bit suspicious that he got just the help he needed right when he needed it? Yes. It is convenient, statistically anomalous, unrealistic luck. And that's why the story is about him. In this fictitious world, it's not contrived because the writer needed it to happen that way. We're following the person who it did happen to, exactly when it happened. That's where the story is. And next up after this, my story about this dude named Sam. They're 27, they go back to work Tuesday through Saturday and visits their mom on the weekends, sometimes to help with yard work. That's right, I'm just shaking with anticipation. These characters, heck, these entire worlds exist to pilot a massive conflict directly to our doorstep. And chances are, a lot of our characters' life, before and after the stories we read, are much more mundane in comparison. That 1-month travel montage, it probably actually gave them a lot of time to decompress. And what happened when they retired afterwards? Whether it be one that teaches us that success comes with sacrifice, or a story that shows just how hateful and torturous an artificial being could be given eternity, the ups aren't ups without the downs, and we all bought a ticket to ride. Let's return to the question at hand. You walk into a room, ending up face to face with your tabletop RPG character, the protagonist of your story, or your own personal original character. Assuming that character you made is healthy, equipped, and knows who you are to them, as their writer, are you walking out of that room alive? This question is ridiculously open-ended, but we have a lot of framework that we've built and a lot of interesting questions that sprout out of this concept. Now, I will admit, this question is pretty targeted towards my favorite cooks in the kitchen. We be in the back talking about some fresh new drama we just baked up for our next character. Heck, we knew their parents died before we knew their name. Don't lie. You've done it, don't lie. Now, this introduction really does make it feel like we're in the deep end right off the bat, right? Like we built a character around a traumatic backstory, there's no way they're gonna let us off easy. But I beg you, only a moment, because I think the question is much more complex than that. Just as every story requires conflict, every story thirsts for resolution. Overcoming that conflict is what provides the satisfying ending that we came for in the first place. And that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody lived happily ever after. In the story, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, the resolution was, in a flash of a single moment where Am was incapable of responding, our narrator and another managed to slay the other 4 humans. And as a result, he lived on as a gelatinous blob, incapable of meaningful action, left to think and wallow for the rest of forever. But to him, he did the right thing. He freed the others from this prison of Am's design. Is that a happy ending? No, that's like the worst ending possible. Like ever. And yet, it was a story of overcoming their conflict, and more importantly, it was a conflict that shaped and molded our protagonist. Literally. As described in the hero's journey, and even in the Odyssey specifically, down to the letter, Odysseus will not be the same person. The person he was when he left will be in stark contrast to the man who returns home. What he endured, what he learned, and what he sacrificed will forever be scars on his body and his heart. Was it traumatizing for him? Yes, excruciatingly so. A once empathetic, loving leader of hundreds of men walking in as the sole survivor with the blood of so many humans on his hands. And yet, would he do anything different looking back? Obviously, this is subjective, but as far as I understand this character and his story, no. A million times over, no, he would not. Would I do things differently? Absolutely. Dear gods, yes. I love the guy, but dude really missed his mark a few times. But I'm not Odysseus. Would Odysseus, given the chance, murder my homeboy, ancient Greek poet Homer, author of the Odyssey and the Iliad? Probably, honestly. I mean, I don't know for sure, but let's dig through some details. At the beginning of his trek, Odysseus believed in protecting the innocent. When confronted by Zeus with direct orders to kill, he fought against him. To quote the musical, "This blood we shed, it never dries." But over his various trials with the gods, whether it be in or out of his control, his hope dwindled more and more. Reality set in as he realized going home with his entire ship of men is not realistic. Not just unrealistic, but these lives will be a toll on the path home. And at the end of the story, his wife and child are threatened by greedy men interested in taking his territory and abusing his family, and he kills them in cold blood. No remorse, no consideration, not a second thought. They tread on him, and he bit back. The scope of this story is wide. I would call this roughly city level, though it had the ability to be much worse. What Odysseus has shown us is that his largest priority was his family, his wife and child at home. Above his kingdom, above the ship, his men, even above his respect for the gods, was his wife and his son. And at the end of it all, he got what he wanted, given it was pretty much the only thing he got, but he got it nonetheless. In the world of Greek mythos, there are much worse punishments. I mean, you could be the dude getting his liver pecked out by an eagle for eternity. I swear, they pulled that out of a hat. They were like, all right, Prometheus, you're getting your liver eaten by, wait, an eagle. Exciting. All right, okay. And for the duration you're looking at, forever. Yes, congrats. And that wasn't even the only creature who had their liver endlessly eaten by birds. Wild. Anyways. The point is, death is a concept much less grave to Odysseus than it would be to you or I. He is a veteran, a man who has forced and punished gods with his own hands, and a person who shares no remorse for those outside of his tight inner circle. Would he care if I died? No, wouldn't even bat an eye. But would he murder me? That's a question worth considering. It's quite obvious that this question relies heavily on the story and the character development. If supercomputer Am was stuck in a room with any human, much less its author Harlan Edison, the only reason he's alive is because Am isn't done yet, to put it lightly. But your character is your character, and I have a few questions to ask you before you lock in your answer. How does your character view the idea of a creator? In their eyes, is their life good? Was their journey worth it? Do they have regrets, or were the things they learned worth the scars they endured? What has your character been through, and what are they willing to endure? Do the conflicts you've created for them seem just and reasonable? What does death mean in their scope? Would the blood of a single individual stain their conscience, or would such guilt weigh meager on them? And in case it helps paint a picture, let's flip the script a bit. What would you do? This is my favorite question to spawn from this discussion. You heard me right. If you were in a room and somebody walked in, some nondescript, painfully ordinary creature, and they say, "I wrote to you." Your features, your story, your life, your parents, your conflicts, your traumas, all of it was their clever design. From start to finish, you are a product of the pen. Would you let them live? Would you let them leave? Perhaps you may ask, what do you plan to write next? The question of the future leads to its own massive can of literary worms. Would your character's answer change? Heck, would your answer change if you could ask that question first? Now put yourself in Odysseus' shoes. Would you, happily retired with your wife and child, having gone through what you went through, kill ancient Greek Homer after he explained that he wrote your story? It's a really hard question to answer. And I have one final stick to throw in our metaphorical spokes, and that stick is Deadpool. No, I'm completely serious, trust me. Albeit only on occasion, Deadpool is a very, very unique character with a unique ability that makes this question 100 times more interesting. Deadpool, unlike virtually any other character in the entire Marvel franchise, can spike the camera. He can break the fourth wall, look at us as an audience, and crack a witty joke at our expense. Now, this is predominantly used for the sake of buffoonery-style comedy. However, there are instances of this being given a serious narrative impact. Stories where his mind was read by powerful psionics in which they were permanently damaged or altered for the worse. Heck, this question is easy for him in the hands of some writers. Would he kill the person who authored him? Well, there's a story where he did. If you were to have a meta-aware character, somebody who knows that there are writers and directors and producers deciding their fate in front of them, how would their decision change? If they were trapped in their narrative world, unable to escape, how would they use this one chance with you, locked in this room? For the first time in their life, in this one moment, they hold the power of their fate. For every action they took, you wrote. Every decision they made, you wrote. But in this one moment, they get to choose something. They get to write their story for one brief moment. And that is true whether you live or die. So, what's your answer? If you met your character in this chamber, stuck in there forever until they make a choice, would you be walking out alive? This conversation started as a funny little meme that I talked about on stream, and I have to admit, it stuck pretty hard with me. Most of my writing, my world building, and my game design include a meta-aware world. Several characters are actively aware of the existence of writers and authors. There's terminology player characters and non-player characters used, unironically, in universe. So questions like these are my absolute favorite. They really help carve out a character's inner machinations and leave me to wonder for a little while. If you want to learn more about the mirror myth, that meta-narrative I was just talking about, or just to talk about your character chamber conversation, join the Discord. I do my best to read every comment on every video, but I can have a much longer and deeper conversation over on Discord. So if you're interested, jump over there and say hello. And if you're interested in supporting my content or videos like these, smack that subscribe button or that hype button while it's there. Your attention and time is what makes these videos possible. And the biggest, brightest, most obnoxiously loving shout out to my patrons on screen. These amazing people keep the channel and my work financially afloat with their generosity. A hug and a smooch to all of those daemons and paragons. That is a purely support role without explicit benefit. They're the shoulders that they've let me stand on, and I am forever grateful. I hope you enjoyed, and I'm excited to hear about how you and your character respond. And of course, thanks.